I just wanted to thank you all for all the comments that you guys have been leaving. I know that some of you have watched that story that came up, the podcast from Sharita, in regards to the narcissistic abuse. If you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and head over to Bruised But Not Broken, as that's where I tell, some of my story, and she also shares hers. But some people have asked me, why did I stay so long? I stayed so long, for one, being manipulated. For two, I'm in a marriage. It's not like, a lot of people just can't up and leave. For three, I stayed for the kids, so I thought. And four, I stayed because I actually truly loved my ex. I loved that person, and I still was trying to make things work despite all the things that he put me through. And I'm not going to go in here and bash, because I think that's, you're not healed if you totally bash the person. I can say that there were red flags that I saw and I still overlooked. So it's not totally him. He was showing me who he was, and I still accepted that, thinking that I could change that or I could deal with that. All right, so people will show you who they are. You have to believe them. So you can't 100% blame that other person for what they put you through when you accepted it. So I want to say that first. You have to accept that you had a part to play in that too. For another part is because we had so many businesses and everything together. So it's kind of hard to separate from all of that, being that so much is intertwined. That's why it's good for you to have your own setup sometimes. But I can say for the relationship, as far as their mentality on things, they do a lot of displacement. And what I mean by that is I was accused a lot of sleeping with the agents at the brokerage, especially the men. Of course, never the women. But I would see him look at the women, especially if they wore certain things. But the men, even his friends, I remember there was a Caucasian guy that was at our brokerage. He used to talk to him all the time. But I used to try to keep my distance because he kept blaming me for sleeping with him. Even one day, I think I touched his arm when we first met. Oh my gosh, this guy went off on that. Oh, you touched his arm? I'm like, you touch plenty of people. You shake their hands like there was nothing there. So that's one too, you guys have saw me, that really know me in the past. I just started putting my hand over my heart. I wouldn't touch any men, especially because I didn't want to get accused of anything. It came down to the point where even our partners that, were trying to do business with us. I remember a solar panel guy. He came in the room with me as I was working at the conference table. And the conference tables have barriers right up under your legs. That night, he kept accusing me. I saw him walk back and forth because the glass was see-through, looking at us in the conference room. But he would never come in and say anything. So I saw him kept looking, so I'm like, okay, this is going to be a problem. So I went ahead and left the conference room. But later that night, of course, he stayed out again 2-3 a.m. because he was upset. But he accused me of getting fingered under the table from the guy. I'm like, how in the heck is he going to finger me in the first place when there's a barrier there? And why would, I don't even understand, what are we talking about here? This is a place of business. This is something I would never think about in my head as a healed person. Because I'm just like, why would you do something like that? But when you really break it down, these narcs have been through so much, either through family drama. I know that with him, his family abused him, which he talked about before, sexually abused, mentally abused. So that's more than likely why they have so many mental disorders and whatever else they went through that opened up that demonic portal within their body. They're now accusing you of those things. So you can't take it to heart if you hear those things and you know that you're not doing it. Yes, it does hurt because you're sitting here trying to explain yourself. The more you explain, the worse it gets. So don't get into that cycle. I remember too, just having an unruly person there at the brokerage. There was this girl, even just running business with the narc. There was this, I shouldn't call it a girl, there was this lady that came. And I told him, do not invite her back at the brokerage. She left and came back. But when she came back and tried leaving again, she caused a bunch of chaos, posted stuff online, included me in it when I had nothing to do with it. I remember she got over $20,000 of leads. We ended up having to go to the local board, which of course they found her guilty of what she was doing. But even in the board, she brought up during the conversation, they're getting a divorce. That had nothing to do with what was going on. But a narc, like doing business with a narc is so hard because you try to tell them to prevent certain things that you can see, but yet they still want to pursue. And then when things backfire, you have to still be with them and handle a lot of those things that are going on. So even just that whole situation still today, that person was totally wrong. That is something I agree with, him on. And he wasn't wrong, with certain things at the brokerage. I can't say he was a totally wrong person in some of his thinking, but some of it was swayed, like any other person. So I just wanted to say, like, the people who have these characteristics, they're usually in higher positions, higher power, because they love power and money. They're not all totally wrong, with what they have to say. So I don't want to sit here and try to bash men or bash narcs, but a lot of their ways and what they do, they truly have, I personally feel like they truly have a mental disorder that they have to work through. They truly have to go through therapy. They're truly not healed people. They'll hop from one relationship to the next relationship and claim that they're healed because the person is treating them better. I saw that aspect too once that person left and got to another relationship and started saying and doing the same things he used to tell me in the beginning. Oh, I'm healed, I'm better. He had a wife before me, first wife. And it's like he wanted to show and prove to her that he was a better man, when in actuality he wasn't. I still had to deal with a lot of the nonsense, the drama, the beef, and still try to make him healed. There are many days where we cried together. He told me his stories, tried to make sure he felt great about himself, and it still wasn't enough. So you have to make sure that you are whole and healthy and taking care of yourself, because when it's time for you to get into that next relationship, you don't want to carry that baggage to the next relationship. Or am I going to ask questions to the next guy? Definitely. I'm definitely going to ask questions, especially when it involves around building. If the guy is coming in saying, he wants to build XYZ, I'm going to ask, well, how are you building now? Basically, how are you building without me? How have you been doing it? Because I'm not Build-A-Bear. I'm not going to be sitting here building up different men. That's something I will never do again. But I will come to compliment, someone's life, as long as they're complimenting my life. But you have to come into a space of healing to where you're self-aware of some of these things now. I can't tell you how many. I was even told, I would, no man would ever want me because I have kids. When, my ex is now with a woman that, he's so-called engaged to 4 months later, and that has kids. It doesn't make any sense. That's another manipulation tactic. There are plenty of men out here that will accept a female with kids. There's men that have approached me with no kids at all. I told them I'm not having any more kids because after all of this, I've contributed to society enough. I've had my kids. I don't want any more. Kids are very beautiful. If they have kids, I don't mind, being with them. But you have to come to a space and a place where you know what you want. All right, that's all I'm going to say. I'll put some more content and videos out. Just make sure you go and follow that Self-Resilient Mind page to where I put most of the content on. And if you need anything, I'm here. I love you all. So yeah, keep the comments coming, keep the DMs coming. I'm always here to answer anything. Love you guys.